Australia is the world's largest island and the driest continent. The land down under is home to unique animals, fascinating landscapes and diverse cultures. Australia is the same size as continental United States, but is remotely located in the southern hemisphere. Most of Australia's 22 million people live within a few hours of the coast. Most Australians enjoy a modern 21st century lifestyle filled with materialistic prosperity. Today, the typical Australian lives and works to indulge in pleasure and entertainment. There is very little regard for the spiritual or eternal. Christian workers have long known that Australia is not a land of great spiritual harvest.
There's probably not a lot of difference between farming and starting a church. I plod around in the mud and in the dry ground trying to make it grow. I guess a fellow like John starts a work, ploughs the ground, prepares people's hearts, preaches his heart out and tries to grow a church.
Australia's main denominations are Anglicans, Catholics, Pentecostals, the Uniting Church and the Baptist Union. The Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses and other cults are present too. Islam is a growing feature of Australia's religious landscape. There are only about 200 fundamental churches in Australia. Most of these have an average attendance of 50 or less. Many of the American missionaries who have come to Australia have returned to the States without establishing a strong church or even finishing a full term. But God has raised up thriving Bible-believing churches in Australia. Many are pastored by faithful Aussies. For at least 50 years, Australians and Americans have worked well together for the cause of Christ. Many Australian Christian workers appreciate the influence and encouragement of American missionaries.
Jon and Marie Hall have been serving faithfully in Australia since 1997. They came here with their 3 daughters, Sarah, Rachel and Hannah. Later God gave them their first son, David, and 2 years later, Daniel.
I really appreciate Jon and Marie. I've preached for them at a number of churches and camps and so on in Australia. I appreciate their faithfulness to the Lord's work, and they just don't seem to change, and they've been a real blessing to me, to my family.
The Hall family spent their first term in the city of Nowra, helping an American missionary establish Shoalhaven Baptist Church. 9 years ago, the Lord led the Hall family to the northern suburbs of Sydney to plant Northern Baptist Church, which is now in the hands of a veteran Australian pastor.
The Halls have been a blessing to us, to our family, and have been very faithful labourers of the Lord, and God has honoured them with the establishment of the New Testament church in that area. So thank you for your prayers and thank you for your support.
Jon has spent more than 10 years lecturing at Sydney Bible Baptist College. Marie has been a college teacher and secretary and has taught church hymn playing.
I've known Brother Hall for so many years, and I really praise God for his ministry, his personal testimony for the Lord. He's truly Christ honouring. He and all his family are the same. They seem to minister with all their hearts. They're always available to serve God. They're wonderful representatives of Christ, loyal in every way possible. And I think for many missionaries that come from America, I have to say that he is truly a good representative of missionaries from America and a wonderful servant of God, and we'd have him here anytime.
I'm working with students who are interested in serving God and preparing to serve God. I can put something of myself into them and watch them go out and serve the Lord.
I first met Pastor Hall while he was lecturing at the Sydney Bible Baptist College here in Sydney, and during those 3 years it was a blessing to sit under his teaching, and as a student not only was I encouraged by his heart to train young students for the ministry, but also personally he's been a friend to me and a help during times of preparing for what God has for me. And I thank God for him and for his labour for the Lord in this area.
Here at Sydney Bible Baptist College, I've been privileged to train a number of men and their wives who've gone off to serve the Lord on the mission field. Billy Eyre and Chris Crockett and their families are in Romania now.
Wherever they have gone, the Halls have been well received by Australians and have worked well with them. They have seen Australians saved, they have befriended and encouraged Aussies in the ministry, and have been greatly used of God to influence believers and strengthen churches. God has given them success here in Australia in planting and helping to plant Australian churches, and by training Bible college students who are now serving in Australia and on the mission field. So what are your plans for future ministry?
We are so excited to continue our labors here in Australia. Whether we're starting a church ourselves, or whether we're helping an Aussie to start a church, whether we're in Melbourne, Darwin, Cairns, back in Sydney, we can't wait to see more Aussies saved, baptized, and help train more for the ministry.